Hello and welcome to the show. I am here today on Car Mechanic Simulator, taking a look at the Porsche DLC. I'll be thanking to the developers for sending me a code, so I get a chance to play around with this. There are 4 new cars for you to be working on. 2 kind of classic 911s, a modern 911 that we have over in the background there, and the car that we're going to be rebuilding today, the Carrera GT. That means we've got 3 new engines, slight variations of course for this, as this particular vehicle is the turbo version. The rust bucket over there, that's found in a junkyard, that is a non-turbo version of the car. Doesn't mean we've got some flat 6s to work on, and that means almost entirely new bits and pieces. Pretty much everything in this actually is going to be new and different. I think maybe the drive shafts are the same, but everything else in here is entirely, maybe like pistons perhaps. I'm not actually sure about the camshafts. Shall we go have a look? Does it have specific camshafts? I presume it must do, because they'll have to be shorter than a normal. Christ. Okay, yeah, I'm going to hazard a guess. Maybe the actual camshaft, oh, spark plugs, of course. Maybe the actual camshafts themselves might be. No, they are specific camshafts. So these are almost entirely new engines. In that, we've got, of course, over here, mod engine. This one was an auction thing, auction house buy that came almost 5 stars. So almost completely spot on shininess scale. Again, all going to have new stuff. Sure, it shares ignition coils, might share. No, completely new water pump. It will share alternator and power steering, etc. with other bits. But yeah, so basically full-on new engines. Suspension-wise, though, they are double wishbone. I think they're double wishbone all-round on everything. These might be slightly shorter upper suspension arms. I don't know if upper suspension arm B is a thing we've had around the place before. This, of course, the non-turbo version of the car. Yeah, a little bit poorly. The vehicle that we're going to be building today is going to be the Carrera GT. I have taken the liberty, I've disassembled it so that we can get to work putting the car back together. In fact, we'll start with the engine. So, Carrera GT is a V10. I don't think we've had a V10 before. Not actually sure if there's anything else with a V10 in there. In fact, you know what? Let's go and have a check. We can actually check if there is, because if we go V10, it will be the Carrera GT will be the first V10. It's the only engine block as a V10. So, there we go, the first vehicle with a V10. Now, there are a decent amount of performance upgrades, and I'm curious to see how much power this is going to get out of it. While things like water pump, and so I did buy a bunch of parts because I couldn't remember what had been repaired and what hasn't, so I might have extra parts lying around just because I've got enough money to not worry about it. Yeah. Of course, this won't be sharing many parts with other engines. There's a fair amount of unique parts for this particular vehicle, but there is still upgradable bits around the place. The engine heads are upgradable. They've got better. Certainly in the earlier Car Mechanic Simulator when we had upgrading, it was only like the standard engine that got upgrade parts, but now most of the new cars, most of the new engines that come out will come out with upgradable parts with them. So this has got, upgradable engine head, it's got fuel rails and intakes and that sort of thing, along with the bits that are shared, like the pistons, for example. So we're going to get like an extra 10% from these pistons alone. We're going to get an extra bits, extra maybe 1 or 2% from the spark plugs. We'll get, so there is potential for this to be a close to 1,000 horsepower engine. I think it does about 600 horsepower, so we might get fairly close. In terms of engine builds, I mean, this part, same for just about every single one of them. We've still got mismatch. I really want matching rod caps at some point. It would be very, very nice to be able to have matching rod caps, but there we go. It's not something that we can do yet. What was I going to say? I got distracted by my own train of thought. I got distracted by the mismatching of horribleness. Yeah, engine-wise, building this lower part, the same as everything. The top part of the engine, as we will quickly find out, there's a lot of camshaft bearings to put on. You tend to find the engines that are simpler to build go on the cars with a more complex driveline, whereas the engines that are a bit more of a fiddle to build, I say driveline, like running gear, suspension, and so on. The engines that are Yeah, I'd say more complex, but this is got lots of little bolts to do up around the place. This thing goes on a car with double wishbone all round, which is probably the quickest that you can work on. We've had a good roll with the engine. That's the important thing in all of that. Right, engine heads. Let's put you on. We have got, so this is gonna be another 10% from the engine heads. It's going to be close to 1,000. I have got slick tyres ready. Not very many bolts hold the engine heads in. Little concerning, not going to lie. Is there really nothing to bolt on this end? Like, I feel like there should at least be another one. I guess you've got all of the other stuff to work around. Let's put in the camshaft. Now, there were... they are already 1%. Doesn't seem like very much from this. It has actually also got an entire custom exhaust system, which we will see in a short while. I say like about sharing of parts, etc. The camshaft caps are apparently now borrowed. They never used to be. Well, I say never used to be. Borrowed from the V12. They used to only have a use in the V12. Now found a use as well inside the engine. Like those little bits and pieces. Okay, sure. In reality, you would have specific ones for the Carrera and for for every car. It makes sense in terms of the game. To be fair, it simplifies the bloody shop. If everything had unique bloody camshaft caps, etc., it would get a little bit mad in the shop. So I can understand the decision-making process behind that. Otherwise, yeah, a lot of this engine is going to be new, and on the other cars as well. They are going to have new engines. We have a lovely shiny. Look at that! There's a lot of shine on the on the intakes. It's a lot of shine indeed. We will work on that in a second. Let's get up this other side done. Camshafts over here, and many more caps. Oh, apparently I did not buy enough of these. I didn't. I severely I thought I might have finally done a good job of buying enough bits and pieces to be able to go straight through without having to take a trip to the shop. Apparently, I don't need 12, but I'll get extra. The great thing is that once you get to this sort of part, or once you got to this part of the game where I've spent so long building modded cars and selling them for a fortune, A, money doesn't matter, B, you can just sell back the parts that you didn't use for the same amount that you bought them for if they're brand new. So there's no real harm in buying extra guff. It's quite a nice thing to have, not having to worry about about all of the extra guff that you acquire. I think this might actually be a pretty damn good looking engine once I'm finished with it, although unfortunately, the head covers are not going to have this, like... I like the chrome and red sort of effect you get from the performance parts. I think it looks great. Although we're not going to have chrome and red engine head covers, unfortunately. Fuel rails, that's only another 2%. Oh, we've got to do this guff down here, don't we? Timing chains. Right, we'll get a couple of those in. This sort of timing chain system is a little different. Again, actually, I say a little bit different. I think I think maybe one of the... No, I don't actually know what would have this sort of style timing chain shoe. I did see another one for a different engine that wouldn't be a Porsche one. But again, if you've played quite a lot of this game, like I have, it's always fun to have a slightly different engine to be working on. Slightly different style, slightly different parts. That's what you want from a DLC. And this... I haven't got the crank pulley. And yeah, this will have little bits of it. To be fair, I think that crank pulley is on basically every engine bigger than a V8 or V8 plus, essentially. We've got some rollers hanging around the place. I've made sure to buy plenty of them. 17 belt A. There's another roller in there. I didn't actually get any tensioners, so I'm kind of sneaky hoping we don't have to worry about it. That looks like... Actually, that looks a little bit like the Fuji circuit in timing belt form. Sure, I think that's how things work. Measure of a good time belt. Does it look like a racetrack somewhere? I swear I bought them. Apparently I didn't. Apparently I bought Cam Gear Bs. I've not done a good job. It might still be a record for fewest bits forgotten. Cam Gear V, that one there. We want, you know what? Oh, there we go. And that hopefully will be the last forgotten part, although knowing my luck, probably not. Okay, so that's all of that on there. We can... Yeah, 'cause that's all the gear for that bit. We will have head cover, The head cover's not too mismatching for all of the shiny chrome. It kind of does the part. We do have a special throttle, and we'll have one on either side of this, which is not too bad. Again, it's a couple more. Okay, it's 3% overall from the throttle in terms of power gain. Get the engine head cover over this side. I'm expecting it to end up, as most car mechanic simulator vehicles, being incredibly difficult to drive. Apparently I didn't buy ignition coils either. There are 10 of those, and they will be modified ones. So that's another, I think about 1% each. Again, that's another 10% on there. As I said, full exhaust system on this is upgradable, which means we'll have a lovely shiny chrome exhaust system the entire way through. We'll come back and do ignition coils at the end. Let's try and get all of this stuff on. I do have enough for an air filter. No clips either. It all sits together. No clips required. That's some proper German engineering right there. I don't think there's a single clip on this car, come to think of it. That is brilliant. We have got an entirely clipless vehicle. What more could you possibly ask for from a car? No clips required. There are rubber bushing. I guess that's what more you could possibly ask for. A car with no rubber bushings. That would be fantastic. It actually has a new clutch as well, or a different clutch system to everything else, come to think of it. I haven't looked. I presume this has got a very different gearbox. I presume maybe the 911s might have a different clutch, but I haven't actually pulled those apart, so I don't know. Let's get a coil as... Okay, it's not quite, but because this has got, well, because it's a V10, it's got 10 of them, that's still, overall it's going to work out at a pretty decent amount of performance gain here. It's always nice when you've got like these common parts that I guess maybe are, I say, balanced in terms of upgrading with the basic cars, and then you start getting the bigger engines. We've got 10 or 12 of these going on compared to like a V6 or something. It's not bad. It's not bad at all in case of the 911, the flat sixes, and so on. That is an engine complete. It's a nice looking engine. It is a nice looking engine once it's all put together. Now, that's not the button I want to press. I want to click on that. Take the engine from the crane. Let's go and dump it into the 911, into the Carrera. I mean, if we want to put it in the 911, be interesting. And that would be a hell of an engine swap. I don't think any of the Porsches have swaps, as far as I am aware. I did have a look. No swap options for that. I'd be very, very surprised, considering most cars are only doing very basic swaps to begin with. I doubt we're going to be able to swap these around. That would require a lot of work in terms of engineering, so no. Not going to be seeing any swaps, I say sadly, but it also means we're probably not going to see that V10 make its way into anything else, which is a little bit of a shame, but, you know, there we go, unfortunately. A little bit too complex. Right, gearbox. I have got a custom gearbox, of course, because may well want to change gear ratios. We may well go and see how fast the Carrera can go. It's a lovely shiny gearbox. As I said, we have a lovely shiny exhaust system all the way through. I like this. It's got Porsche engraved on the upgraded gearbox as well. I guess that's the only one that's going to ever use this gearbox, will be this engine in this car. Starter motor, I have actually got one repaired, but we've got enough starter motors hanging around. Cool. So that is essentially all of the engine stuff done for now. Let's see if I've bought enough bits and pieces for all of the running gear. Still would like to see perhaps one day get some upgradable suspension, like maybe tunable suspension, something to give cars a little bit more grip. I mean, it's fun, don't get me wrong, doing the engine upgrades, making the cars, considerably more powerful than they would have been, or they are to start with. With the sort of fun small cars, you can get some quite big power out of them, and of course, you go up to this, you're getting hopefully around 1,000, if not a little bit more. But it would be nice to be able to get some handling, perhaps have something that could give the cars, a lot of vehicles do get quite twitchy and interesting to drive unless you stick them on slick tyres. So maybe a way to calm some stuff down, customizable suspension parts, but I doubt we're going to see that. That being said, I mean, this game's been out for quite a while now, and there have been a number of vehicle DLCs. Well, I'll be honest, I wasn't necessarily expecting to see much more in terms of vehicle DLC from from this game. However, I'm glad to see it still being sported, glad to see it still being updated and still being worked upon. And yeah, I mean, this is a good selection of cars. Might have the most new parts, perhaps. I'm trying to think of any of the other cars. I think all of the other engines that have come, maybe the Pagani's, most of those engines were entirely new, but there were only 2 of them. Whereas this, we've now got, well, essentially 3 almost new engines, 1 a slight variant. We'll do wheels last. This has also got the highest number of radiators I think I have seen on a vehicle. There are 3 for the Carrera. Oh, I've got no normal size rubber bushings. What am I doing? What am I doing? How did I forget normal size rubber bushings? I have no idea. Let's just get a stack of them, because I'll need them at some point. I might have got a stack of them last time. Apparently I did a fairly good job of repairing stuff, because I mean, some of these have been bought, but most of the time I've got... Well, they've all been bought, but most of the time I've got extras going on. There we go. Right, double wishbone again at the front. Nice and straightforward. I mean, there's not really much to... Well, the front end of this car. It's just filled. Filled. That was the English. I was going to say full and filled and put it together again. Gotta love good old brain farts. Yeah, front of this car is not as busy, not as technical. All of these vehicles with double wishbone suspension are pretty straightforward, pretty quick actually to rebuild. I would be curious. I wonder what's the fastest car to rebuild on here, like the least number of parts in it. That'd be an interesting little, I say challenge, but an interesting little conundrum, because you want to have a simpler engine and a simpler running gear as possible. So if you go with a classic... Oh, I haven't got any tie rods. God damn. Apparently, I'm awful at this. Yeah, as far as the simplest car, you'd have to have... So if you go for a classic car, you probably want something with leaf springs, because leaf springs don't require going on the spring compressor. But you go with the classic cars and they can sometimes have fiddly engines where you've got to worry about push rods, etc. You go with a modern car, like this one, if you're lucky you get double wishbone suspension, but you've got a lot in the way of... This is where he's got a lot of cam bearings and all of that sort of stuff to go. The flat 6 Porsches have got a huge amount. I mean, you can just see when mousing over those when I had a quick look around them. They've got a lot of different little parts to bolt on. It's just more bit... They might not necessarily require a huge amount in the way of like the cam bearings or whatever. I don't know with flat 6. But they will have a lot of different little parts. So... I don't know, that's an interesting conundrum. It's an interesting conundrum. Maybe I'll try it someday, see what I can find as the fastest car to rebuild. I think probably a classic car with a basic engine is what you want. It's a basic, well, you want the most basic car that you can find. Apparently I've done a pretty good job of repairing brake calipers on this. Is that all? It's all bar the rubber bushings in the cross member. Bodywork should be good. This was a 4-star car from the auction house. I actually think most of the cars that go through the auction house are complete. It's just what condition the bits are in the car. So we have got all the bodywork for this. It is... Oh, I guess I can just do cooling from there, can't I? Accessible from from the engine bay, kind of. Do I really have to go from... Hold on. I took them off without having to go via the engine bay. Sometimes there's a little bit of a fiddle on cars that aren't front-engined. The game is kind of a little bit designed around having... can I not get to... There we go. Yeah, the game is a little bit designed around having front-engine cars, and it's not always so friendly when we go to alternate engine positions. There we go. We've got plenty of radiators, and we've got all the fans that we need. Perfect. Right. That should be basically everything done. This is when I have forgotten. Let's do whether there is a... Oh, I didn't actually pay attention as to whether I put the big wheels on the back or not. No, they are the big wheels. Good. I didn't know. I say didn't know. The car comes with different wheel sizes. It's 20 at the rear and 19 at the front. Can't say I've seen that very often. I mean, you can do it yourself when you're building cars and so on, but I didn't know the Carrera came with that. I guess there is a reason. Some, I mean, different width tyres, of course, but I didn't know we got different size actual different size rims on the vehicle, and around this side I should put away that, put away the bloody engine hoist. It still has the engine hoist go to the front of the car wherever the engine might be positioned, even with the Porsches. Why are we not going to... Excuse me, engine crane. You know what, it can stay there. I don't care anymore. Because I can sit around and fail. Please tell me I got everything fixed from this. Looks like I might have done. Most of it was, you know, in decent enough condition when I pulled it out of the car, so I'm not expecting it to be in terrible condition. I think the interior was 100% condition as well, which is always good. Well, hood / boot, depending on what you want to call it. Rear bumper in, rear lights in, and just this side to go. As ever, of course, as well, the intriguing thing with new cars when they come out and new engines means that, well, if you're into your modding with this game, which I do highly recommend because there's lots of cool cars that can be modded in, you've now got an option for a V10 engine that, you know, that can be moved or used, sorry, or can be moved around to fit in whatever car it might be. It's interesting. And now we've got sort of proper flat sixes that can go in the various 911 mods and all of that kind of thing. So yeah, it is a interesting prospect. It is an interesting prospect indeed. Assemble mode. Does anyone have a front number plate on this car? Apparently not. That's still stuck there. Okay. Never mind. I'm apparently a muppet. Our vehicle is not quite done. Not quite done because we've got to do brake servo and all of that stuff. I think I have bits of these hanging around. We've got brake servo, ABS pump, of course, and the ABS module, and there might be, hopefully, a battery. I think I have one ready for the car, for over this side of the car. A little bit more awkward to find. Very easy to forget about the battery parts. Kind of you get distracted by the massive bloody engine. Oh, and then we need to, of course, let's not forget the oil plug. In terms of cost for this car, it is actually cheaper than... Well, this one was cheaper to buy than the modern 911, about 200,000 cost to buy the Carrera, and this was... Well, it's worth 300,000. Admittedly, it's not quite 100% condition. It was a 5-star auction. I think we had about 320 for that because I had to beat the AI. This, fully built up, is not worth as much as you might perhaps expect, honestly, but it was cheaper to buy, so economy is a little bit interesting. That's, yeah, if you've got to try making the big money, you can get one of those at the cheap. That's probably going to be worth about $500,000. This, sadly, not, well, maybe not quite $500,000, actually. It's probably going to be worth about 450,000. Move the car. Let's go put you on the dyno. Let's see what power figures this thing can obtain. I'm really hoping for 1,000. I'm not sure if I've quite got enough. I wasn't really counting as we went along. If we're going to be able to get it up to that. But I mean, it's probably going to be pretty close. It's going to be pretty... Outside of the Zonda engines, this is probably going to get as close to the big supercharged V8s as anything else. I wish there was like a rating on the graph to show you vaguely. It's close. 985 horsepower, 913 torque, sorry. It's very close. I don't know if I hope I didn't miss anything in the engine. I guess there might be something in there. I'll never claim to be 100% perfect with the building. You should know that by now. But it's pretty damn close. That's a very powerful car. We have got it on full slicks. I mean, it comes on race tyres. I've opted for full slicks for that little bit more control. Let's go and give it a drive, I think. We shall see if it's a good vehicle to drive or whether it's a terrifying death machine. So, here we are on the start line of the circuit. I don't remember what the fastest lap we've done around this track was, unfortunately. So, in terms of trying to beat a record, I think it was in the 30s or something, but whoa, it might not have been. Okay, camera, I want you to go back to maybe a fixed third person for this. Slightly angry sound. I mean, it's a different sounding engine to the other ones. Curious sound, to say the least. Whoa, even with slicks, I say this is more oversteery than I expected. You know, it's 900 horsepower going through this. Normally, slicks is a cure-all of, well, or a cure mostly of handling handling ailments. Whoa! It's a twitch. It can certainly twitch. It's probably not quite got the same, but it's definitely not got the same grip as the Zonda R that we ran around here, or perhaps the drag car that was for a while the fastest car that's ever gone around this test track for us. It does not quite have... Whoa, it doesn't like curbs. Curbs are dangerous. Yeah, curbs are dangerous. There's quite a bit of wheel spin, even with the racing slicks on the car. Let's see if we can get a clean lap out of it. We do go in a straight line at least, which is a big improvement over a lot of the cars that I have to deal with here. Guys, almost up to 200 miles an hour down here. That's a lot of speed on a very, very short circuit. It kind of actually has some quite a lot of initial understeer. Like, it doesn't have that sharp turning that I expected from a car like this. Sort of initial understeer, then it finds grip. Oh, and all of a sudden oversteer. That's not where I was supposed to have gone. Help! I'm definitely not supposed to be in here. How does one get out of here is the next question. I might have caused some grief for myself here. How do we fix this? That is solid. Bugger. Might have got my car entirely wedged. Is there anywhere to go? I mean, maybe if we use the... I'm actually really surprised there isn't big invisible walls around above these railings. Like, the railings themselves are impassable, but above them is not. I guess I can't go back out that way. No, too much to hope for. It's... Okay, it's not the easiest of vehicles to drive. Okay, yeah, I've given it a mad amount of power. But I suspect it'd be fairly similar. Just... yeah, probably the less kind of sudden snappy over, or maybe a little bit less sudden snappy oversteer, but the slicks are normally good at managing... The slicks manage this sort of power in the Zondas, shall we say. So... Oh, no, that railing curves away. God damn it. We're going to have to restart, unfortunately. Yeah, the Zondas will manage this sort of power. The Carrera just won't quite. It's not as the worst car to drive. It is nice that it goes in a straight line. God, you just got to be a little bit mindful. Yeah, it's like there's the initial understeer, and then all of a sudden, the front finds grip and the rear can't go with it, even if we're not on power. So we take the power completely out of the equation, and the back end still lets go. You could probably learn to drive it. Oh, sometimes when you go under brakes, it might violently veer as well. Maybe I wasn't aligned. Got to be very careful of the curbs, though. Curbs do mean things and are capable of launching the car into areas that it should not be going. Maybe if I made the gear ratios crazy long, it might calm it down a little bit. Maybe we'll stop some of the wheel spin, but it's still going to have that sudden kind of snap oversteer, that off-power oversteer that we can get if I want it to. On-power oversteer, certainly. Yeah, it's not going to be a world record lap time around this circuit. It's not going to be the fastest vehicle here. I don't think it's really got the grip. Brakes are pretty good. I'm a little bit nervous of just diving into the first corner, so we've got into trouble already. Oh, we're going to run wide there because it's just the safest way to do it. We'll go for this. This will be our final lap because this has got to be the one that counts really in terms of speed. There we go. Find some grip. Maybe a little bit of wheel spin, but not too bad. Dive under brakes again to the next corner. Starting to get the hang of it. Yeah, it's not as good as Zonda R, but on slicks it's fairly competent. As long as you aren't a muppet with the throttle, which I am being a little bit. Curbs being an issue. Around this circuit, there are places where you really do want to be able to jump across the curbs. A lot of the low supercars have had issues with this. It's nothing new. And, you know, to be fair, being over-aggressive on high curbs with a supercar is going to give you problems, let's face it. At least once we do get on the straight, we don't have the horrible wandering around problem that some cars have faced. We are going to do a 59.3. Yeah, it's not going to be... Whoop, not going to be near the fastest, but it is a very cool vehicle to have. Really good addition. And as I said, you know, we've got lots of new bits in terms of engines to work with. Before we do head off today, I have one more thing to do. As I've unlocked a barn find, I don't know at what point, I leveled up somewhere I guess, got a new barn find. So with all the mods I have currently installed, I'm going to head over there and see what interesting vehicles we might possibly find in said barn. So here we are. I'm hoping for I mean, there's a lot of mods that I have that have got some like ultra rare cars. There's a Bugatti Type 35. There's a replica that you can find in junkyards and auction house, but the genuine one that is worth a fortune can be found in a barn. We're hoping to find that. That's a Gasser, I think. That's a Fox Body Mustang, which is, I mean, it's all right. Not massively exciting. That Gasser is pretty cool. That's a Celica. And, oh, that's it. I say it's a little bit disappointing. Might have hoped for a rarer car, because all of these can be found elsewhere. The Gasser's pretty neat. The Gasser's in pretty good condition as well. The engine's fairly crap, but the rest of it is not in bad nick. I can't actually really investigate much of this. Is that a different... I'm not actually sure what engine that is. V8 two-carb supercharged, but the top looks different, and the fair bit of it looks different. I'm going to have to buy it. We're going to... definitely going to have to buy the Gasser to go with our collection of Porsches. But there we go. Yeah, that is a look at the new Porsche DLC for the game. As I said, there's a lot of new parts in terms of the engines that come with the car. Nothing new for suspension, nothing new for handling. But if you're a big Porsche fan, or you just want more different engines to work on, it is a pretty interesting one. And as I said, you know, we're now going to have flat sixes and V10s as something that can be put into mod cars as well, which is always always a good prospect. Just the more options vehicles have, the better, quite frankly. That, though, is going to be it for this video. Thank you very much for watching, and until next time, a goodbye.